Hello, welcome to this short video about an app I wrote called OliveTin. OliveTin allows you to expose predefined shell commands via a web interface, and OliveTin also has an API. Over the last few years, I've been amazed at all the different things that people use OliveTin for. We've got a small community and a Discord server, and people post loads of examples. What I personally use OliveTin for, and the reason I created it, was so that members of my family could interact with parts of my home lab, and also run basic diagnostics such as checking if the internet connection was working or starting and stopping game servers. I use OliveTin as well for interacting with my media server and a few other things like that as well. Also, people in the community are using OliveTin on Raspberry Pis and small embedded devices to interact with GPIO devices or run small electronics projects and kind of build a web interface for those electronics projects. We also have people in the community who are using OliveTin in more of a business setting, either in small to medium environments to run routine jobs like backup scripts or updates, as well as DevOps teams who are using this to even go as far as create virtual machines or run automation playbooks. In this short video, I'll talk you through some of the configuration options and show you perhaps what you could maybe use OliveTin for. So as you can see here, I've got a simple web interface. The design for OliveTin is to make everything as simple and easy to use as possible, and not to have any kind of bloated UI, hopefully. So the first and most simple example that I use all the time is for pinging the internet. So is my internet connection working? You can see here it just flashes green if that ping works successfully, or if it wasn't working, then it would flash red. It checks the exit status of that command and kind of responds accordingly. You can use this for pinging other servers or really anything that you can run on a command line, but this is just a really simple feedback that just kind of green for good and red for bad. Sometimes you want to see the output of a command though. So for example, on the media server, you might want to check for how much disk space you've got free. And you can see with this button, when I clicked it, it popped up a dialog, and the dialog shows me the output of that command. I'm just running df in the background for this command. Sometimes you want even more details, so you can configure the buttons to show the start time and the finish time, as well as the exit code of the command. And for example, you can also expand the output and even make it full screen if that's how you want to read things. Sometimes you want to run a command several times and look at the output across those commands. So you configure this button here to be able to show little mini buttons that show you the results of that command. And this is just running date in the background, and 0 seconds is how long it took to run the command. You can see here 1800 is the time, and then over here 1813 seconds, right? So these are different commands that I've run here. You just saw me click the button and it has the different timers here. And you could use this for a variety of different purposes when you want to compare the output across those commands. So far I've just shown you commands that are very quick and easy to run. But you could also use this for running longer running scripts. So like a backup script that takes several seconds or minutes or hours or days, OliveTin can handle that. And again, in this case, it's showing me the standard output as well as an error for my notification because I didn't set it up properly, and it's all shown up in here as well. You can also pass arguments to commands as well. So you can have free-form text boxes, for example, to change the number of times you want to ping a server, as well as more complicated options in the dialog. And here they say it just pings a server here 3 times. But you can define as many arguments as you'd like. A really popular use case for OliveTin is to restart Linux containers or even system services as well. So I just have this example here that's got a drop down for my containers, and I can use that to kind of maybe restart a Linux container. Sometimes your buttons are dangerous, so deleting old backups, you don't want to accidentally click that. So this has the option for a confirmation so that I don't start the button here by accident, and I have to tick this box to start this, but I won't delete my backups today. Sometimes people ask, well, how do I use OliveTin to run commands on different servers? And the thing here is not to overcomplicate it, just use SSH. So OliveTin can run commands over SSH like normal, and that means you can run commands on lots of different servers, but we'll just have one OliveTin instance. So in this example, I'm going to restart a web server on server 1. And that server is actually turned off right now, so you can see how OliveTin responds and says, well, SSH timed out, and in this case flashed blue. Again, a lot of people using OliveTin on embedded devices to turn on GPIO devices or interact with their electronics project. And I'm not running this on a little Raspberry Pi right now, so now that's going to flash orange to show I've got an error message, didn't find any GPIO devices. Lastly, again, a really common use case for OliveTin is running automation playbooks. So if you want a quick and easy button to run Puppet, Ansible, whatever automation Terraform playbooks you want to run, then there's could be a use case for you there as well. So these are just some simple configured buttons, right? So statically configured buttons, I've got a config file with all of these in. And if I show you that config file, it's just a YAML file today. So looking through the YAML file, you can see here's my button for ping internet, with the button up here. In the background is running ping-c1, so count 1, run 1 ping against 1.1.1.1. I can also set icons here and also change the configuration options like I showed you earlier to make it either pop up the standard output or the full execution dialog. As you scroll through the configuration, you'll find there's lots of different options. Again, here we have to set custom timeouts, custom icons, maximum concurrence, so you don't run the script too many times at once. You can limit that. Probably too many options to go through in this video. So rather than static buttons, OliveTin can also generate buttons for you as well, based on a list of entities. So if I pop up the sidebar here and switch to another dashboard, so I go to my service dashboard here, and the service dashboard here is loading a list of entities in the background. In this case, I've got 3 entities defined: server 1, server 2, server 3, and I've told OliveTin to generate buttons to wake on LAN or power off those servers. But entities can be anything stored in a YAML file or a JSON file. So you could have a list of containers, which is actually one of my other examples here. So I've got start and stop buttons for some containers that are running. But also, again, you could have a list of file systems or a list of, like servers, routers, networking devices, whatever you can think of, really. It doesn't have to be necessarily something you can ping or like a server or a container. Again, like a file system or a list of folders, those could be entities. So anything you can think of, anything that's a thing, could have actions generated for it, right? OliveTin also has folders, so you can organize your actions into different folders. And of course, you can have subfolders as well if you like to organize things that way. And again, these things down here are dashboards, so you can split them up into your actions up into different dashboards as you prefer. The last thing I think to show you quickly is the fact that it doesn't just run nicely on a desktop, it also runs happily on mobile devices as well. So if I change here, for example, to an iPhone, see that the interface scales nicely. And I use this all the time when I'm away from my computer to run commands, maybe just from my mobile phone, or of course you could obviously run it from a tablet. And then generally the interface scales quite nicely as your screen size scales as well. Let's just turn that off and go back to desktop mode for now. So I think the last thing just to talk about is the fact that everything's pretty well documented. So you've got docs.olivetin.app, you've got things like install guides, where we build containers for running inside a Docker container, and publish those to Docker Hub and GitHub as well. OliveTin is also built as packages for Fedora Linux, Debian, and a bunch of other Linux distributions, as well as a Windows and Mac OS version as well. A lot of people configure OliveTin behind a reverse proxy. So there's the option here, if you're running in a home lab or a business environment, a lot of people like to use a reverse proxy, so there's a few guides in here as well. And if you want to customize actions, like again changing the icons or the timeouts, you can see here it's all documented, so it should be fairly easy to get started. Again, everything's just by a simple YAML file. With that being said, I think that's everything I need to show you right now. Thanks very much for watching the video. Come join us in the Discord server if you've got any questions or need any help getting started with OliveTin. We'd love to know what you're building with it. Thanks so much. Bye bye.